Yo, what's up aliens? AHEE here with another tutorial. So today I wanted to show y'all my best advice on growl basses. First, I'll just show y'all the bass that we're gonna make. Pretty awesome. And here I'll show you a couple of others. Alright, so I'm going to break down how we actually made these. So here in Serum, I'm going to turn off the post-processing. First thing on this is that I started with a sine tone looking wavetable, but that also has a lot of noise. And you'll see here the LFO moves through the wavetable position and also is doing the bend minus plus. And it's important, I think bend minus works often better, but the bend plus minus is working really well in this case. And as I scroll through this wavetable, I just want to show y'all how it moves. So it retains like this is almost like a saw-like shape. Here it gets pretty cluttered, and then here it's almost like a sine wave. There it's almost like a saw wave again. There's almost sine-like effects there, but always it's got some noise, and so noise is really important, but also something that has a fundamental tone like a saw or a sine wave or even a square wave. So something that's got a low nice fundamental while also lots of noise on top. That's something to keep in mind. And usually the things in the spectral realm here, like the trilobites, the squelchies, and like a lot of the monsters are really good wavetables for that. Also, the next key thing is, the movement through the wavetable, the bending, because the bending actually, like if we look here, you see how it turns when you bend minus something, it turns it almost more into a saw wave than from its original shape. And that's why it like brings out more of the fundamental in the sound. Alright, so the next thing to keep in mind is the filtering. Now here the band reject. The big thing to notice about the band reject is that it's got 2 notches. And that's a lot of similar thing in growl basses, is that it has multiple peaks of resonance. And those multiple peaks of resonance are moving. So here we can see in the width how they're moving apart from each other. Here, I'll move this over a little bit. As they're moving, they're folding into one another. Having them cross is another big aspect. But in this one, just like the movement of them creating a less resonant space in between is a pretty big thing. And then also the movement through the spectrum. Now here in the effects, we've turned down the hyperdimension. Actually, both these are pretty much off. We've got the multi-band compressor setting on here. And then the EQ notches are also, again, multiple EQ notches and they're crossing. See how they meet there? And so it's really about creating resonances within complex wavetables that still have a strong fundamental. And then here's the last key thing, is that it changes pitch. Here, see in the MIDI how it is gliding down an octave. So it's going from E2 down here to E3. And I have it here set on mono and legato and always, and the portamento is set to like that 480 submod right there. So that's a pretty long bend. And so that's what's going to give this particular type of growl that meow. So without it, if I was to say get rid of one of these notes and we were to play it, it's just wah wah, which is still a cool sound, but we want the row, we want the pitch bend. So let's add that note back in. Wow, because like think of an animal. The animal's tones are never perfect. You know, there's always some sort of movement to the pitch. So movement in the actual texture of the waveform while still having a strong fundamental and creating resonant peaks in there while also pitch bending. That right there is pretty much the essence of a good growl. And then the post-processing here just sort of brings it out. Essentially, it's doing some compression, some light phase, a little bit of distortion, and you could add some chorus in there if you wanted to, but it's really the compression and the phase that's really driving that sound. And you can get this sound. This is part of my Rave Reimagined sample pack. It's up on Splice. And then the AHEE growl bass. I think this is part of my Magic Racks volume 2 or 3. I forgot which one. I think it's part of 2. Or it's part of the Magic add-ons. I've forgotten which one, but I'll provide a link below. All right, so we've also got this other bass. This one's got less of a pitch bend to it. Again, this is at like a similar tone, but we're going to check it out. So this one, it's got a complex waveform there, which is nice. It's got a strong fundamental there. You can see it, but we're also adding in more noise by adding in the FM. So without it, it's actually sort of adding like a strong fundamental back into the sound. Again, we've got the unison up at 13, which is pretty amazing. And we've got the filter going. So this is a bandpass filter. And so it's upping the drive, the fatness. We're actually playing with the mix. Oh, you see that? It sort of turns it into like a reverse. What was the last filter called? This filter over here, the band reject. You see how it almost turns it into the opposite of a band reject by backing off on the mix of a band, where you can see the, if we back off on it and move this over, you can see the resonant peak is here, but then there's these resonant dips around it, which is like the opposite of that. That's pretty neat to see that in conjunction right there. And then that is affecting both the sub, which is that strong fundamental, both oscillators and the noise are all being sent through there. So without the filter, it just gives it a more of a controlled sound. And then over here in the effects, again, we've got, see, this is like the classic Growl bass thing where it's a high pass filter crossing with either a peak or a dip EQ filter right here. And yeah, it's got some distortion. It's the hyper dimension. We got the hyper up a bit there, the dimension just spreading it a little bit. And we've also got a little extra noise here in the delay. The BPM is turned off. Feedback's pretty low, but it's set to like this like 20 to 30 milliseconds. And it's just the high end. And so it adds that almost like robotic texture. That one's a really cool little trick there. So let's turn off the EQ. Here it gives that, it gets rid of that low tone. So the main low tone is going direct out. That's a big thing. While everything else is getting eaten up by these filters. Oh yeah, and then again here we've got the multiband over here. Oh yeah, and then again, the Growl processor with a lot of compression and some phase on there to really bring it out. All right, let's move to this one. Again, this one has another pitch bend to it. Let's look here. LFO1's controlling a lot. You see the shape's pretty simple. So it's controlling the level of both of these. We do have this strong fundamental over here. We're not using a sub, so we're using this strong fundamental. And see this monster bass, if we move through it, it doesn't really have a strong fundamental to it. It's very, very noisy. So by FMing into a sine wave, we're able to like keep that strong fundamental while adding in a lot of texture. Oh, look, we got the bend plus in this case because it's like, we're not needing that strong fundamental like in that first example because this sine wave is providing the strong fundamental. Look at that, doing a lot of drives. The EQ peaks are sort of like kissing. They're coming in, moving away. And then what's going on over here? We got the hyper dimension, distortion. Oh, we got some movement here on the delays. Adding in that top end robotic flavor to it. And also we have a low pass filter. It's getting rid of some of that top end buzz. And then also on here we can see this shape if we go into the, so LFO3 here is doing that pitch bend on the master tune. So what is this? Yeah, it's going up 30. I have it set to monopolar, so it's going from high pitch down to low pitch. So if I was to speak, that's a little too low. That's a good amount right there. So yeah, I didn't want to just show you all how to make one specific bass. I wanted to show you all the concepts behind making growls in the first place. So that way you can make your own. Or if you really want to, you can download these sounds as well, or you can do both. I recommend both. All right, so let's move on to this last example. So here I've got my fat rack on it, and the growl bass. Turn those off. This is more of almost like a wub or a wonk, but still got some growliness to it. Now this one I made my own texture to it. It's sort of square-like, but again here you can see I've got the strong fundamental. I do have another sub because I think I am cutting out the low end of this quite a bit. So yeah, again, look, 2 points of resonance, a noisy bend minus, FMing to a sine wave. This is up an octave, that's important. It's got some distortion, and then look, we got the OTT multi-band setting on there, and then the band reject, which again is 2 points of resonance. Now, hear that. There's no valley-ness to it. So it is these peaks of resonance that add the vowiness and the movement of them against the pitch bending that is creating that movement. So here we've got, here, see on here. Okay, so I'm controlling the level. Yeah, it's controlling that. So that's too much. Yeah, it's about fine tuning and finding those things. So again, strong fundamental, noise on top of it, whether it's in the waveform itself or if you're FMing it in. Bend minus can add more fundamental back in. Having resonant peaks and having them either cross or just like movement of multiple resonant peaks. And then sometimes pitch bending. Usually you want to compress it with the multi-band, maybe add some distortion. Sometimes that delay with the short throw on there can add some of that upper texture. Again, use filters to control the sound, not just make it brighter. And we've got growls. I hope y'all enjoyed that. If you did, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more tutorials. Before I go, I have this brand new Magic Ableton racks. That's my volume 4 that I just dropped, and it is my best one yet. It's cool is because it's an 11 and it's got all these like presets on the Magic rack. So here I've just got a saw wave in Serum, and I'm gonna flip through some of these presets. This is all built in, like all built-in Ableton stuff. It's just insane for sound design. I love it. I also have this really useful, let's grab like a almond break. Here, check this out. I got this thing called the drum juice. Yeah, right here. It also works really well on basses, but so check it out. So many different styles of compression just at a click of a button. Super fun. Too big. Messy. Broken. I really like these like clean and up front, big and boomy ones. Those are super cool. I'll provide a link below where y'all can get those. All right, aliens, definitely check out the demo on those. There's so much good stuff in there. I've been getting so many positive feedback on this new one. All right, much love, aliens. Talk to you soon. Peace.